Everyone, and welcome. Welcome to Making Workplaces Smarter with Digital Maps and Location Services. We are going to dig into real-world insights from Cisco, Pointr, and Verdantix. We're going to kick things off with a few housekeeping rules. Just to let all of you know, all questions are welcomed. If you have a question, please use the Q&A feature to submit that question. We'll be peppering those questions into our Q&A section at the end of the webinar. And so feel free to share your thoughts there. If you are unable to stay for the full webinar, don't worry, the session will be recorded and it will be shared with you. We are eager to learn from each other. You'll notice that we'll have a few polls that pop up during the span of the webinar. Just to collect your thoughts and to help guide the discussion, as we want this to be an open and fiery conversation. Lastly, if you're interested in connecting with our speakers, we're excited for that. We will provide their contact information at the end of the webinar so that you can quickly follow up when the time is right. Now let's get to the agenda. Today, we will explore the role of digital maps and location services in the workplace of 2022 and beyond. We'll explore digital maps and location services with Cisco DNA Spaces and Pointr. And then we'll hop into tips on choosing your approach to indoor location services. We'll end things off with Q&A and open discussion. And so all of those questions that you submit during the webinar, we'll try to address them at that time. So I'm excited to introduce today's speakers. We have Ibrahim Yate, Senior Analyst at Verdantix. It's an analyst firm that focuses on top trends in smart buildings. And so I'm very excited to have him here. We'll have Lucas Hansen, Director at Cisco DNA Spaces. Lucas, he is a visionary for what DNA Spaces is capable of, and we'll be able to paint that picture for you. And then we have Ege Akpinar, our co-founder and CEO at Pointr. I'm very excited to have you here, Ege, as you continue to build the vision for Pointr and what we're able to do with our digital maps and location services. So to get things started, we'll jump into part one, how Fortune 500s are leveraging their smart buildings to power today's hybrid workforce. Over to you, Ibrahim.
Thanks, Billy. Yeah, thanks, Belize, and welcome to today's session. And just briefly, in this first part, we're really going to cover how the Fortune 500 are leveraging their smart building strategies and technology to enable effective hybrid working. That is the name of the game this year and certainly going forward. Just before we kind of get into that, of course, I'm going to introduce myself and the firm I represent. I'm Ibrahim Yates, an analyst in the Verdantix Smart Buildings Research Practice. We're an independent market research firm. We cover multiple technology segments relating to properties. And within that, I specialize in hybrid and smart workplace software solutions. So to start things off, I would like to draw your attention to a key finding from our recent global survey of over 250 heads of real estate, facilities, and workplace experience management. Which is something that really keeps a pulse on the beat, on the kind of trends in the market, and what corporates are really preferring to use right now. And one of the key findings was that a plurality of respondents expect hybrid and remote working to be a key feature of work life going forward. And I'm sure many of you can confirm this with your own personal experiences at work. And as such, this really has major implications for how a firm organizes and oversees the use of their offices. All firms, of course, want their offices to enable and encourage productive work and, of course, to be run efficiently. But there is no single way that fits the needs of every workforce and every organization. One approach is to orient your workplace management strategy around the physical office itself, having staff host as many client meetings and team meetings on site as possible. Provisioning them with the latest video conferencing technology is just one example, and focusing on enabling in-person collaboration. The second approach is to orient the strategy more around remote work, encouraging as many meetings to be done online as possible, minimizing the location requirements for new hires, or indeed for someone who's moving within the company, and really turbocharging the real estate savings by pushing by pushing the employee to square foot ratio, upwards. And in this slide, I'm going to share a few snippets from our corporate survey, outlining what types of technological tools firms are investing in to enable this productive and efficiently run hybrid office that is really the goal of heads of real estate and facility managers today. As you can see from the slide, over 70% of survey respondents are looking for location-based services when selecting a mobile app, and over 80% require space booking capabilities. This is because leveraging such apps helps to make the workplace experience of staff more convenient and their day more productive. An example being, digital maps can automatically adjust for orientation and distance relative to where the user is, and it kind of gives them information on services and spaces within the location they find themselves in. So it's really location specific and it provides context. And when it comes to the initiatives that respondents are prioritizing in this year in 2022, a number of key themes stick out from the survey results. At least over a third are focusing on getting more out of facility contractors, ESG data management, energy reduction efforts, and the identification of cost-cutting opportunities from their operations. And again, in this context, location-based services and interactive digital maps enable contractors to find their way more easily around facilities, particularly large ones or facilities they're not familiar with. And typically they would be doing this whilst attending to a maintenance task that, so to speak, if we're talking about stringing things together, this maintenance task would impact office energy consumption or building consumption. That leads to potential cost savings from equipment optimization. And then this in turn boosts a firm's ESG rating. And I'm painting this way because corporates are really thinking about things in an integrated manner since the spread of hybrid working. I would now like us to briefly cover the user journey behind a deployment of indoor location services and digital maps. Ege, perhaps you could walk us through what this journey would typically look like, since this is your bread and butter expertise.
Certainly, Ibrahim. First of all, hi everyone. My name is Ege. I'm the CEO at Pointr, and I welcome you all to today's webinar. And I really hope you'll find this productive. So, to your point, Ibrahim. So the vision we have for really future is the future office is going to look different than today. And if I paint a picture from say 20 years ago for cities, 20 years ago cities look different. They are still the same kind of highways and roads and parks, etc. But in terms of usage, how technology blends into cities almost did not exist 20 years ago. We relied on signage, we relied on brochures or leaflets, etc., and we didn't really have too much use for smartphones. Fast forward to today, you see, walk around the city, everyone's on their phones and everyone's using an application or a solution for something to do, maybe run an errand, to meet a friend, or to track their mail, or just figure out where they're parking next, or where they're going to get their car from, or hail a cab, etc., etc. It's really all relying on that kind of infrastructure for the city. And a lot of those services we take for granted today, whether that's again, ride sharing, or again, ordering food or meeting up with a friend, you take GPS away, or you take digital maps away, quite a few of those companies go bankrupt. Like take Uber or Lyft, they wouldn't exist without that infrastructure. Same goes for Foursquares and kind of Grab hubs, etc. So that transformation has happened outdoors. It happened gradually, so we now take things for granted. But we don't stop and realize, actually, I didn't used to order cabs this way. Now we believe the same exact transformation is going to happen inside buildings as well. That's what we've been working on as a company. And this slide shows a better office. That is, again, when I leave home, rather than me trying to faff around where to park my car, it knows my schedule for the day. My diary is there. It's my company knows my schedule of meetings. So why can't it tell me, hey, you're going to have most of your meetings in building 4. Here's a good parking spot for you. And books that spot so that when I go to the campus, I don't need to drive around to figure out a place to park. Then instead of having to deal with badges, oh my God, I forgot my badge at home or this and that. It's just I have a technology on me, whether that's a variable or a phone or maybe a visual technology that then I can just automatically check in to my office rather than having to tell them my name and my badge and my ID, etc. And based on my day, and that's what we're seeing a lot, at least on kind of from our partners and clients, booking my room, booking my meeting room, booking my desk for the day, especially if you're moving away from kind of the old way of working and moving into hybrid work. You're not going to have fixed desks anymore, which inevitably means I'm going to be using different desks every time I go to the office. Hence, for that to happen at scale, then I need someone or scheduler to then book my desk for me. Otherwise, it's just too much faff. So it's really, how do I make myself more productive? When you're working from home, your desk, that doesn't change, hopefully. When you come to the office, you need that convenience and comfort. So a tool, an employee app perhaps, or maybe digital screen that just says, this is where you're sitting today. And we picked it because we know your colleagues are going to be there, your coworkers. So it's going to be more productive by sitting there that day. And we know also you like, again, I know we'll talk about more of this soon, but we know you like a warmer, you want to be by the window or you want a quieter spot. So it kind of goes into consideration as well. Same goes with the meeting room bookings. If you need, I think all of us will have witnessed someone holding a laptop outside the meeting room because someone's overrunning or someone needs a bit more time. And then you have literally 5 senior managers just holding their laptops trying to go in, and it's just awkward as well. That's going to be a thing of the past, right? If I need more time, the system I will be able to say, do you need more time? I do that with my Zip car today, right? When I'm about this is 20 minutes before I need to return my car, it says, do you need more time? I hit the button, it extends my trip right away, right? Why can't we do the same with meeting rooms where it knows that I need more time? So it just says, sure, I booked this room, I extend this room, or sorry, this room is booked, but there's another room two doors down, and I told everyone to meet you there, right? It's a very smart assistant that's happening well. And all of these, again, the underlying theme here is you really need up-to-date maps and location services for any of these to become a reality. Live location with colleagues, I'm on a big campus, hey, I want to grab a drink, meet me here, or hey, there's something we need to discuss quickly over lunch, meet me there, etc. And then shuttles, etc. Rather than having to look up an internal website, an app can tell me, or a screen can tell me you're about to leave. Here's your next shuttle. Here's where you pick it up. So it's really a more kind of a digital journey. And I think it works both ways. You mentioned office-centric and hybrid-centric kind of trends. Those who want to double down in their office and campus experiences need this. And similarly, those who want to have smaller real estates also need this, because then you need to be even more dynamic for scheduling. So it's really, we're seeing the same technologies used in those who want to double down on their campuses, or also who want to shrink their real estate. So it's really both ways. And that's kind of the vision that we believe we're working towards. And we're seeing a lot of traction. And so that hopefully gives you a nice picture. And that's what this kind of slide aims to convey.
And just Lucas, from your perspective, could you offer some commentary on how this sort of functionality helps with the office experience, particularly for the onboarding process for someone who's not seen that sort of office before?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and we'll see it in follow-on slides, but as folks are coming back to the office, if you look at this concept of hybrid work, they're not always there. And we'll look at McLaren as a case study. Being able to step into a space without context and immediately get that context via, accomplishing that through a combination of location, like where am I, a system knowing where you are, the employee where the employee is, as well as rich maps where, we can actually provide almost a twin of what that space looks like in a really aesthetically pleasing, consumable fashion. This is one of the top kind of requirements and top priorities for our customers as they're bringing people back into the office. And one thing we say, like, build the workplace of the future. Something that's super exciting is that, like, the technology is not in the future. The technology is here. And we'll talk through this a little bit, but everybody on this call has probably an access point on their ceiling where they're working, that can enable these types of experiences. And then on the other side, you know, on the mapping, we've gotten to a point where we can deliver great maps at a low cost in a very short amount of time compared to what we've seen in the past. So, you know, the one theme I think to keep in your mind as we work through this is the future is here. The technology supports it. And you probably have that technology in your buildings today.
Excellent. Thanks both. And now let's move on to the what and the how of digital maps and location services. So on the market today, there are really, at least from the analyst perspective, there are two types of physical products that deliver digital indoor maps and location services. The first is workplace signage, where, you know, which employees can kind of interact with through responsive screens. This creates a digital environment reflective of the real office for the employee to engage with. This tool stands out in offices as a means of promoting productivity. It's something, you know, it flashes lights. It's an interactive screen, so you would see it from far away and associate it with planning your day or working with others. It also reduces workplace friction. And this is one of my favorite things about products like this, because it does it in such a simple but effective way. Just the mere fact that it labels who has the time and for how long at which location kind of clarifies that, you know, the hidden rules in an office, you know, access rights, and minimizing the need to intervene and so to speak, to kick out co-workers who are using a meeting when you've booked it for that time. It kind of reduces friction in that way, and that is something that shouldn't really be underappreciated. The second tool on the market is, of course, the mobile app. This is usually used for more personalized experiences and navigation, as it can enable turn-by-turn blue dot wayfinding. Such tools can also save your usage history of an individual office or a set of offices. It can integrate with your calendar as well. And this can kind of tailor the user interface and user experience for your needs. Okay. And then in the next section, I would like us to explore how Cisco's product DNA Spaces enables smart offices to optimize their operations, crucially without actually adding any new IT infrastructure. Lucas, I think this one's for you.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you. Yep. So we'll watch a short video. It's a real fun video. It cracks me up every time. So let's roll.
Hey there, hybrid worker. It's kind of a whole new work environment these days, which calls for some updated rules of etiquette. Luckily, Cisco Smart Workspaces can help you navigate the do's and don'ts of today's workplace. Maybe it's your first time in the building. Don't just randomly pick a place to start your day. Smart Workspaces lets you know which areas might have better air quality and less people. But the real showstopper is the interactive Cisco Rich Map. Just use the touchscreen to find the location of everything important. Conference rooms, open desks, kitchens.
There I am.
Yep, you even found you. You've got the hang of it already.
Thanks. Excuse me, how would I get to the infinite light and peaceful meditation room? I feel like it would be glowing, you know? I'm just kidding.
Now that permanent desks might be permanently gone, Smart Workspaces lets you find a desk that works the way you do. Near your coworkers, away from your coworkers, or just away from that guy who's never heard of headphones. #rude. Nice choice. Happy spreadsheeting. Facilities managers can check air quality, see room occupancy, and easily stay on top of all the facilities without being a nosy hall monitor. Because Cisco Smart Workspaces combines data from WebEx devices, IoT sensors, and Meraki cameras, all through existing Cisco access points and switches that puts you in control. Whoa, looks like third floor is partying like it's 1999. Better alert the cleaning crew. Nice job. Smart Workspaces gives coworkers a safe, smart, and seamless experience all throughout the office, like conference rooms. Don't be a creeper McLurkerson waiting outside to grab the room. Nobody wants to be that person. Weird. Now you can see which rooms are available, then book the one that works for your needs. Now it's all yours.
It's mine, baby. This conference room is mine.
for the next 30 minutes at least.
We should probably get the meeting started. Yeah.
So no matter if you are working at the office or in charge of it, Cisco Smart Workspaces is helping to make your workplace work a little harder for you.
So just quickly on Cisco DNA Spaces, it is a platform you can think about as a solution, a platform that sits on top of Cisco infrastructure, and we have a pretty amazing scale right now. Millions of access points live. We're on every continent, I think, except for Antarctica. Billions of square feet of enterprise space that's covered, and really, we can go into DNA Spaces in a lot of depth, but I think there's just 4 big points and big takeaways from the Spaces side, especially around workspaces and smart workspaces. So the first one is, as I mentioned before, is if you look at the ceilings, you're going to see access points up there. If you go look in the closet, you're going to see switches. You're going to see video cameras. You're going to see collaboration endpoints. There's a lot of infrastructure that are in your buildings today. And what Spaces is able to do is take that infrastructure and leverage it to deliver outcomes. Now, we'll show you a set of outcomes that we deliver natively, but we also support a really strong and robust partner ecosystem, of which Pointr is a magnificent participant. But the point here is that we do take that Cisco infrastructure, this IT infrastructure, and we build on top of that to help deliver outcomes. Now, like 2 very kind of quick points here is that from a cost perspective, this lowers the TCO of solutions dramatically. We have a slide that we'll talk to there. And then from a deployment, from a support, from a monitoring perspective, it's an IT blessed solution because we're riding on top of IT gear, we're working with the IT teams, and we're making that bridge between IT and you all for the outcomes you need. So keep that in the back of your heads when you're thinking, hey, how am I going to build up my workplace and what can I use that exists? And as we work with different stakeholders. The second point here is this concept of a rich map, of an employee map, of an aesthetically pleasing map, of a map that helps us understand outcomes, understand location in the context of the business. So we recently introduced our rich maps. And what this does, it enables us to take facility maps, the source of truth, run them through an engine and deliver 3D beautiful maps for employees to use with different solutions. And we do this at a very low cost. So generally, there's a lot of services behind this type of mapping. It can be really, really expensive. And we've just brought that cost down, and we've brought the speed to deployment and delivery very quickly. The other point here is Spaces works with Cisco technology, but we also use those Cisco technology as gateways for third-party devices, third-party IoT devices. So you may have a building where you need to supplement rooms with, a CO2 monitor or an occupancy sensor, or we may want to do wayfinding. So we have to bring in different types of beacons for that. We have a really broad set of devices within the DNA Spaces framework and ecosystem where we can take that data and we can deliver that into our apps or into the ecosystem. And the last piece here is, what we've seen just widely used by customers, especially when it gets into the workspace side, is the ability to take that data that we generate in DNA Spaces, right, and export that either to a third-party, partner app consumer who's going to take that to deliver some use case, or to our stakeholders and our customers and the companies. So just one quick example is that we've had customers who say, hey, I have 100, 150, however many buildings. We turn Wi-Fi on as a sensor to understand occupancy, and then we can take this occupancy data across all these buildings to some type of data repository, and they can start getting insights and making decisions. So being able to export data from the platform, whether that's IoT data, occupancy data, et cetera, is there too. And what this all delivers are a set of outcomes around safety and health, employee productivity, better employee experiences, better understanding of the space, and enabling IT to better serve customers. So from an ROI perspective, we did the math, and essentially what it comes down to is for about $1 per square foot that gets spent on Cisco, there's a couple use cases. One use case is around space utilization, space optimization. The other one around employee experience. But the ROI there, just based on those two use cases, is about $9 per square foot. So this comes back to looking at the infrastructure you have, putting the spaces on top of that infrastructure, and then delivering these outcomes either through Cisco or through our partner ecosystem. The ROI is just very, very attractive. And then we have a calculator. I encourage you to go to it. We can send you the link to take a look at that to kind of work through these examples. So one example we have is McLaren. We'll share the video with you that they have, but essentially it's a good example because we have a company who has folks on the racetrack, they have people in the office, they have people moving back and forth, and there's a broad set of Cisco collaboration technologies that helps them with their job. But as folks are moving in and out of the office, they have the smart workspaces and the rich maps there, what you saw in that video. And so employees are able to walk up to that, navigate the space in this really neat kind of smart board, right? And then be able to see where they are, what conference rooms are open. If you look on a conference room, what's the temperature in that conference room? See where that conference room is in respect to you, and hold that conference room and go to it. And from, again, going back to the TCO and the ROI argument, in the case of McLaren, they didn't have to buy any new hardware. We put software on top of what existed, and we were able to deliver this very quickly and deliver this experience. And that's what excites me. We stood up like 15 buildings in the course of about a week and a half, because they already had the infrastructure, and we could deliver these experiences to them at a super low cost in a really short amount of time. So just at a high level, we talked a little bit about this, but to reiterate a couple points. So you all there's a bunch of Cisco infrastructure that sits in your buildings, all the way from your access points, how you're connecting over wireless to switching, which can control and work with different types of PoE wire devices. We have some IoT devices within Cisco, like Meraki Things, and we have WebEx devices that you're using to collaborate with people. So we connect to all of this. We also have a set of IoT devices where the Cisco infrastructure serves as that gateway. So you don't have to actually buy a third-party gateway and pull the cable, put somebody on a step ladder and pay them to install it. You already have a gateway in your ceiling, and then this device that sits in the ceiling, the access point, is going to actually talk to, communicate with different IoT devices. Again, room occupancy sensor, desk sensor, air quality sensor. So, we take care of all the stuff that's happening on your site, on your premise. We bring that data into our cloud, and then we have a set of different applications like our smart workspaces application that you saw in the video. And we have a bunch of partner applications as well who we work with, of which, Pointr is one, where we can deliver all that data that we're getting through the premise, through the IoT devices, using Wi-Fi as a sensor. We're delivering that to our partners through a very controlled fashion, transparency. You all, the customer can always pick how to do it, and then they can take it and build different applications and deliver different use cases with it. So go, very, very in depth in that, but at a high level, this is the basic framework and architecture of DNA Spaces. So I'll hand it off to you. I mentioned that we work with partners, and I'd say that Pointr has helped us deliver some great experiences with customers across industries, but especially in the workspace. So excited to be able to continue working with them.
Thank you, Lucas. The entire team is very motivated to be working with you and the team. And what I think Cisco partnership means to us is really that kind of unparalleled scale. Doing a bunch of buildings is one thing, but doing millions of buildings across billions of square feet is just something that has not been done in this space. And we are very confident in our joint capabilities to unlock that and really pave the way. Quick about Pointr. we originally started in London and then we moved to Boston. So it's a London and Boston based technology company. We are software specialists. And myself, I'm a computer scientist. And today we're live in more than 5,000 venues, got more than 20 patents, and we're on track to do 5 billion square feet. So that's a lot of space. That's a lot of buildings. And we do have we have 13 Fortune 100 customers today. And then again, even more Fortune 200, Fortune 250 customers across 27 countries we're deployed in. The two core, I think, themes. So what we build is called the deep location platform. That's a software platform. It has two main components, the ones that you see on the screen. The first one is AI-driven digital mapping. Again, indoor maps are not new. They have been, folks have been doing those for years or even decades now. Where it gets very interesting and very challenging is when you have a lot of buildings. If you have one building or two or five, that can be done manually. The second you go to that next tier of hundreds of buildings, again, and Lucas mentioned some of the accounts we work on together, and then we do have customers with 2,000 buildings, 500 buildings. They require something else, and that is what we call MapScale. That is a purely AI-driven mapping solution. It gets rid of all that manual work. You feed in a floor plan, and it spits out a kind of a cleverly optimized and refined and a rich-looking map. So that's what we call MapScale. That's the first core pillar of our platform. And again, similar to cities, every building needs digital maps, and this doesn't only create them, but also keeps them up to date. What we're seeing since the pandemic, and I like to believe that's now that we're after the pandemic, hopefully very soon. Offices even also keep changing. But wasn't used to be the case, with fixed offices, etc. It was a different story, but now everything's getting more dynamic. So things change once a month or once a week sometimes. So having a mapping tool to keep up with those changes is incredibly crucial, because to do any planning, any analytics work, any experience, your map needs to be up to date. That's where MapScale comes in. Now, once you have maps, of course, a very intertwined use cases, of course, having location on that, because maps with location, they always go together. So the MapScale we can do very quickly remotely, and then with integration with Cisco's IoT infrastructure or their partner or kind of network of partners, we can enable Blue Dot seamlessly as well. So that enables you to have location context. Where am I? Where's my nearest room? Where do I park my car? How do I, pick up the shuttle to go to that next building, etc. So just having that location context so that, the system always knows how to help you better is super crucial. And we do that seamlessly using as much as possible existing infrastructure. And that's through a mobile SDK. We're not an app company. We're not a solution company. We provide what's called an SDK, which is a software development kit, which is a library that goes into your existing solutions. And we do work with a lot of existing app solutions out there for employees, but also other solutions as well. So those are two main pillars for our platform. And the kind of the more broader picture is really the maps, location, and that goes with wayfinding, geofencing, and analytics are all core parts of the same software platform. Some of our clients use all of them. Some use some of them. I think I would like to maybe mention geofencing as well. With geofencing, it's around. You walk past the kitchen and you say, it's someone's birthday today, come in and say hi, right? Even if or you walk into the building and says, you're welcome to building number 5. Today we have a fire drill. If you ever spend time in the UK, that happens on a weekly basis. So, just being able to inform and then notify and also just engage with the employees in a smarter way is kind of where we kind of leverages our geofencing engine in those kind of use cases.
In this final section, we're going to discuss how to choose the right approach that is most likely to satisfy the needs of the stakeholders involved with your property, specifically those that would be concerned about the use of, maintenance, and of course the purchase of location-based services and digital maps. So an important point to note here is that deploying location-based services and digital maps often requires that it enables objectives beyond the mere operational. We can speak about navigation and office productivity, but in a wider sense, this solution and indeed others that Verdantix cover, or indeed any kind of market analyst firm cover, these solutions really do need to reach a broader goal or objective, such as cost control. Lucas was talking about ROI earlier, and that is partly driving that conversation. So the next question that a user should ask is, how does this solution achieve the objective? And there are really 3 factors: scalability, cost efficiency, and value add. So I'll just start things off. Lucas, in your experience, how do location-based services scale across multiple buildings?
So if I had to say, this gives me chills. It really does, because I've seen so many complications and challenges here. But I would just say, look at your wireless infrastructure, right? It's ubiquitous. Guarantee it's virtually going to be everywhere in your workspace. Turn that on and start getting utilization data, just like that. That is when you talk about a solution that scales, that has high ROI, it's #1 in my book, right? You really have to come to this and look at it holistically. And I've seen, and I think we'll talk about it here in a second, but basically, yes, I'd say wireless, that's your best technology to start with, to start quickly with, and then leverage that infrastructure to scale some IoT, more IoT driven solutions, which I think we'll talk about.
I would just kind of throw this in there, but I guess I'll speak from the kind of corporate point of view. Say I'm a corporate and I'm thinking about the data sources that I could use. There's sensors, there's Wi-Fi, there's access control, there's simple badge swipe data, there's a lot of other stuff. What's your rationale for going to the wireless infrastructure as opposed to other data sources for workplace insights?
Yeah, good question. So, I mean, there's a bunch of different, there's a lot of different options out there, right? And it really depends on like a cost, like how much do you want to spend? How granular do you want to get? So we can look at badge level data. Badge is going to give you a count in, but you're not going to get a count out, right? And you may not capture everybody. You can look at video. There are some, we've had some customers who say, hey, video is great, can cover a big area, and you may capture people who are anonymous walking in, but there's still challenges there. There's issues. We see some issues around employees saying, hey, why do you have a camera looking at me? Like, that's a no-go, right? And you have other sensors where, really good maybe for a point solution, such as like room occupancy, potentially desk occupancy, but they're expensive, right? So it really is saying, this is my must-have, this is what I need to get to, and this is how much I'm willing to spend and how long it's going to take. And then again, you have IT in the mix as well, what IT is going to approve, right? So I guess when you think about this, you really kind of got to think about it along multiple axes. But generally, when my mental model is the cost and the outcome, what are you willing to pay? How long are you willing to wait?
And cost-wise, Ege, would you have anything to add in terms of how using location-based services plays out in terms of what they pay for before they realize an outcome or a deliverable?
I'll start with, that all depends on what they pay for, right? So going back to your scale point, this makes sense for a large campus at scale, very easily. Now, the challenge in the market has been, how do you get to scale? And I think that's what excites me a lot about our partnership with Cisco, because again, doing a few buildings is one thing, doing it globally across your 500 corporate buildings is a different level. And we do have a lot of customers who have traveling employees who go to conferences, who work as consultants. So they are 3 months in one country and then 6 months in a different state, et cetera, right? Giving them a global solution is the only way. And unless you get to global, the solution is not useful. Well, maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration. You can of course start region-wide, et cetera, but really getting to global is where you're going to unlock the most value.
Okay.
Now,
yeah,
what we're seeing.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, where that 1 to 9 piece makes a lot of sense is if I haven't met a customer saying, I'd love to install more hardware, right? It is one of those things that you want to leverage existing hardware as much as possible. Of course, if you're doing a quick pilot or a small building, you might want to try something kind of off the shelf. But really, when you're talking about scale, you need to rely on powered, global infrastructure. That's where wireless plays a key role. Every office is going to have Wi-Fi. It's not a nice to have. It's a must. So being able to leverage it as much as possible. And we are a hardware agnostic company. We're a software business. So it's not our business model if someone buys hardware or doesn't buy hardware. We really exactly the same. But for us to deliver at scale, we allow powered hardware. And the access points already in the ceiling or other sensors, whether the WebEx device, etc., having that capability immediately brings your costs down. And then allows you to go to scale. Then ROI is just there, because then you're enabling a solution for all of your employees to be more productive. If you literally say 5 minutes per day per employee at that scale, then you're immediately, the solution immediately pays off. So, but you see, Cisco basically brings the barriers down to scale, and then once the scale is down, then it's a very, very kind of clear path to success for the employee experience, productivity, wellness, and also we're seeing cases such as, understanding kind of the facilities management better, so that I know that area is clean, or maybe I want to be a bit away from other people, etc. So it's really just having that, making the office a better, more seamless experience pays back.
Okay, and I think Ege, sorry, Lucas, you had something to add there earlier. Was that right?
Yeah. So, oh wait, I think we'll discuss it in the next slide.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, let's move on to the next slide then.
I was getting ahead of myself.
Yeah, so just briefly in this slide, we're going to discuss how location-based services can satisfy the objectives of important corporate personas. So even if, say, you're watching this, or you see the recording and you think, I like the sound of this product or this solution, you're obviously going to be aware that within your organization, you have to work with others to get any sort of technology project off the ground. So whilst C-suite executives are currently highly interested in talent retention and attraction, technology and IT teams might be a bit more concerned with minimizing costs. So, in this market and many others that Verdantix cover, we always say a key litmus test is, helping usually disconnected teams speak a common language and understanding each of their roles in the customer deployment journey. So, Ege, from your experience, how does operations and IT management fit into this?
Again, I'll go back to the scale point, Ibrahim, because this needs to work in harmony across the office, right? You can't have a solution that IT doesn't approve. And similarly, IT can't be the sole driver, because then they have a different agenda than the HR and then ops. So it really should be a joint discussion between all of these departments. There are data privacy concerns, which again, the advantage of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is they're fully anonymized. So they are pretty much the only GDPR compliant and California Data Act compliant technologies. That's what HR will want to see. Similarly, facilities management will want to see, how can I make it kind of, how can I make sure that my operations, I'm getting data I need to. Lucas' earlier point, maybe they like the dashboard, maybe they already have a system where they need that data in. So being able to see that interoperability would be very important for them. And for IT, of course, there's data security, there's just like the maintenance. So all of departments have different agendas for good reasons. And for any solution to be successful, it needs to be kind of, all of these departments need to be consulted. I've seen, I have seen, I would like to admit, more failure than I like to admit from companies who then reach out to us to give them something better, where it was just a small department with an idea, but they really didn't check the other boxes, and then it just was a pilot that never rolled out. We've seen more of those, but again, our partnership with Cisco now changes that, right? We're now going global on day one, and then scalable on day one, so that all of these, IT already likes Cisco, they already have their infrastructure. And that's already gone through their cycles of kind of approvals. Facilities management wants applications and data, and that's there. And then HR, is usually more concerned about kind of the right experience for their employees, and they see a lot of good examples that we share with them, as well as data privacy, which we fully check. So, this is not an employee tracking solution. This is a location context at an anonymous level for employees' benefit. So when you combine them all, then you get, I think you get a winning formula.
And Lucas, in your experience, how have you kind of helped organizations or customers bridge the gap between these different departments? Because they have different objectives, but they do have to come together to make this work.
Yeah, great question. So what I've seen happen A lot. And this has really been an inspiration for, I think, like how we built out our architecture, how we go to market, like how we build the product is like, you know, you have folks in companies, and let's say real estate team, they got an objective they need to meet. I need to know X, Y, and Z. And they're going to try to do the best solution, quickest time, lowest cost, right? Like that's what they're looking for. So, you know, what we see is they go out, they pick a vendor, they deploy it to a floor, maybe a building, they have a POC, let's say it was successful. And then it goes to, again, this talk about scale. Now we get to IT. IT says, hey, we need to go through these reviews. We need to get you checked up. What's the cost of support? Do you expect us to support this? And so it's not necessarily that you're hitting this immovable wall. It's just the fact that, you know, no one engaged with IT in the beginning. So it slows down the process. Now, you can look at it from an FM perspective, from the employee experience perspective, but essentially what we do in Spaces is we're able to bring these parties together because we're essentially saying, like, IT has a set of tools, infrastructure, technology, and they can work with other stakeholders in the company to deliver these outcomes, right? And so you have an IT blessed solution that has existing support channels, existing security concerns are resolved, right? All that stuff is completed. And then we work with like FM or HR, whoever that is, to help deliver the outcomes they're looking for, again, in a scalable, low cost fashion. So this is like, honestly, this I would say is our bread and butter, because we just run into it all the time. And we really do try to, you know, only from how we built the product all the way to you know, how we work with customers to help resolve these and move things along quickly. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, and then I think just before the Q&A session, I am conscious of time, we have one slide on a potential case study or a real life example to put all of this discussion we're having here today into kind of, you know, into a more practical setting. So some of you may have seen from the news, especially if you read, you know, features like The Economist or the Financial Times or Forbes, you know, JP Morgan are currently working to get as many employees back to the office as, you know, nearly full-time or indeed full-time. They're switching from assigned seating to hot desking, and they're using more software to book spaces and services to achieve a 6-to-10 ratio of seats to employees. And this will sound familiar to many people on the call at their organizations. Naturally, there's a big focus on using the office layout and digital tools to enable spontaneous learning, planned and unplanned collaboration. And all of this is done to maximize the output of the professional services delivery and make the workplace more accessible to minority groups as part of an ESG agenda. So what you can see here is that technology really fits into broader goals around space consolidation, ESG, you know, managing the impact of hybrid work. You know, I myself, I wouldn't be considered a junior employee, so perhaps I don't need the office as much. If you're a junior employee, you'd want to go in more and learn and get mentored, for example. And I'm just trying to use this case study to illustrate the importance of seeing technology, whichever tool it is, in a broader context. And I think we should probably just move on to the Q&A session, since I'm sure there's lots to cover in the final few minutes.
Perfect. And I just want to thank all of the speakers for sharing their insights on the current state of the hybrid workplace and what to expect in the near future. We have time for one question that came in, and the question is actually for all of the panelists. If all of you could just give a quick think to the following question. And so the question is, can you share the most interesting workplace use case you've come across in your experience with the implementation of location awareness in the hybrid workplace? Over to you guys.
Yeah, happy to go first, since it's part of my job to look at stuff like this. One of the things that sticks out in all the years of researching it is, I think it's an app by HB Reavis in there. It's part of their Symbiosis software package. So they're a commercial real estate investor, and they do it for all their own properties. And this app is quite interesting because it records which parts of the office the user has gone to, and then it makes a note of areas they haven't gone to. And based on their profile, it might suggest, oh, do you want to use this library or this part of the building that you haven't engaged with before? And I think it's very neat because it's location specific, and it gives them the opportunity to use the full breadth of an office or a facility. And I think that's probably the future of apps like that.
Same question for you, Lucas.
Good question. So I'll talk to something we can do it through Pointr, through our ecosystem. And I want to preface it like there's a lot of interesting stuff out there, but interesting doesn't always mean people are going to be willing to pay to get that, right? So I think what is really going to be helpful as people come back to the office is essentially kind of understanding who else is in the office. So, like a find my friend or find my manager, we gotta collectively, we need to find out how to make this office experience 10 times better than working at home. Like that's where we flip to. And we really do see some of these social aspects of I think like, the hybrid worker experience really coming up, bubbling up, because that's really enabling folks to engage with one another, right, in a more meaningful way, like when they are there. So I'd say that's
Lucas, I think just after echoing that, I think my example was the one that came to my mind was very similar along those lines, this was from a consulting firm that that's one of our clients. And their challenge was they got, again, I mentioned this earlier, they have consultants who travel around the world. And then they also travel to different cities. They more often than not, they end up, 2 people would be, or maybe there's 4 people, a meeting that's happening, and 2 of them are actually in the same office, but they don't even know that because they're not there constantly on the move. So that they realize, hang on, are you in this office? Or they don't even realize they're in the same office. So their chances are they're in phone booths on different floors, on different parts, in different parts of the building without even realizing they're actually in the same building. So that context of, hey, your colleagues are actually in the office today. Here's where you can go sit next to them. Assume you want to sit next to them. Kind of, that was one use case that came to my mind. Another one that we deployed in a massive training facility for another partner, and there, the manager basically was trying to do, after training, I just want to drop a pin and say, tell my team, hey, meet me here for a quick drink after work. And he was saying this was so challenging for him to do it because to send an invite, there's no location, and it's already the end of the day. It's like there's so much friction that they just wouldn't be able to do it unless he literally called everyone one by one. So you're saying, can I just, and then now they have an app solution that you can drop a pen and say, meet me here, and we'll just like a debrief or like decompress or whatever you want to do. But really, there's a campus experience for just something as simple as dropping a pin. Otherwise, it's very, 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 it's very painful for him to do. And they just wouldn't bother basically. So those are 2 examples that come to my mind.
Know that we have hit the end of our webinar session, but I just want to give a huge thank you to all of our speakers. You come from different parts of this huge solution that we're able to provide for smart offices that are trying to empower their working force. And just thank you all for sharing your insights. So thank you, Verdantix, Cisco DNA Spaces, Pointr. We will be following up at the end of this webinar with the recording of today's session. So thank you all who were able to attend, and we look forward to seeing you at our next one. So have a great afternoon or evening or morning, and we'll see everyone soon. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.